Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today I'm going to be doing a Blu-ray and DVD update for April 2016. So first up for the Blu-rays, we have Star Wars The Force Awakens, the limited edition dark side slipcover variation, which this film is absolutely phenomenal. If you have not checked this film out by now, you really are missing out. Such an incredible Star Wars film, great follow-up to Return of the Jedi 30 years after that film, and overall, I just think this film is fantastic, so definitely check it out. If you want to see a full in-depth Blu-ray review from me, shall put a link in the description and at the end of this video, and you can check out my previous video review of this Blu-ray, so that's Star Wars The Force Awakens. Next up we have the John Carpenter remake of The Thing, which I'd heard many great reviews about this movie, but never checked it out before, and overall this film is fantastic. Really great gory blood effects in this movie, typical for an 80s film, kind of overly excessive, but definitely not too much. I thought this film was fantastic. Great cinematography, really well directed, great performance from Kurt Russell, and overall I just think this film is fantastic. Really nice glossy slipcover, which I think I grabbed this for only $2.99 as well, which isn't too bad at all, so that's The Thing. Next up we have Ex Machina, which is sort of a dark play on the morality and ethics of artificial intelligence, which this film was amazing, really thought-provoking overall. The actress who portrays Ava, the AI robot featured throughout this movie, was truly superb, really captivating for performance. Just overall, a fantastic film. The ending, I wasn't very happy with the ending on the first watch. I watched this twice consecutively. The first time I watched it, really thoroughly enjoyed it, but the ending seemed a little bit too blunt and dark for me. But I watched it a second time, noticed quite a few different things about this movie, watching it for the second time, and the ending definitely grew on me. I thought it was very dark and very appropriate by the end. So yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved the manipulation from the character of Ava throughout this film, and just a fantastic movie. So that's Ex Machina. Next up we have The Shawshank Redemption, starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, which I bought the DVD of this maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I finally upgraded it to Blu-ray because I just never owned this movie despite having seen it on television a couple of times on DVD or Blu-ray, so now I have both, which I shall be offloading the DVD at some point. But yeah, The Shawshank Redemption, absolutely classic movie. I'm very inclined to check out the original Stephen King novel of this movie, so that's The Shawshank Redemption. Next up we have Scarface, which this film and the next film I'm going to talk about, Goodfellas, featured in my mail call video, which I did a couple of weeks ago. But this is the Al Pacino film Scarface, which is an absolute classic, which I got new sealed, surprisingly, from a seller called eStocks over eBay, which usually sell used DVDs and Blu-rays, but I got this new sealed, which was very surprising, obviously, and it's the triple play edition, which contains the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital copy. Amazing film, so many great sequences in this, love the ending, and overall, I just think Al Pacino's performance as Tony Montana is just truly incredible. So that's Scarface. Next up we have Goodfellas, absolutely amazing film, loved Robert De Niro in this movie. Joe Pesci in particular was my favourite from this movie. I just thought his acting in this was fantastic. The scene in particular that definitely enthralled me was the how the fuck am I funny sequence, which was overall just beautiful, really great dialogue, so that's Goodfellas. Next up we have Whiplash, starring Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, which was overly dramatic in some areas, but I definitely enjoyed it. The idea of a very sort of old-fashioned, brutal teacher, portrayed by J.K. Simmons, trying to get the best out of Miles Teller's character as a very gifted drummer. And yeah, the ending to this film was very satisfying, and overall some great performances from the characters in this movie, so that was fantastic. Whiplash. Next up we have Donnie Darko, one of my all-time favourite movies. This is the double disc edition, which contains the original cut and the director's cut, which has about 20 minutes extra footage on it, which I'd never seen the director's cut before, which is the first thing that I watched when I picked up this movie, and then I watched the original, and I had a good look for which scenes were different, and I was kind of disappointed in 2 areas with the director's cut. Number one, I'm a huge fan of the soundtrack of this movie, and they cut out 2 of my all-time favourite songs from this, which is kind of disappointing, but I do like these kind of differences in this in the director's cut of the film, and I also didn't really like kind of a layout of the film, since there was a countdown in the original cut to when the world was going to end, and then in the director's cut it was more or less chapters of the book that Donnie starts digging around and looking into. But aside from those 2 things, the movie itself is fantastic. The director's cut I really thoroughly enjoyed, definitely a lot more depth and substance to the film, thanks to the extra 20 minutes, and overall just a fantastic film. If you have not seen it, definitely check it out. So that's Donnie Darko. Next next up we have the first Iron Man movie, the 2-disc edition, which I haven't watched this movie in about maybe 2 years, but I love Jeff Bridges' performance in this film as the main villain, and overall I think it's an overall fantastic film starring Robert Downey Jr., so that is the first Iron Man movie. And finally we have 2 more Blu-rays. We have 21 Jump Street, which I grabbed 22 Jump Street a couple of months ago on Blu-ray, so I thought I may as well upgrade the first one, and I do kind of prefer the second one. I think the comedy is a lot more stronger in the second one, even though it is a very similar film to the first one. But yeah, you cannot go wrong with either of these films, so that's 21 Jump Street. And finally we have Leonardo DiCaprio in Blood Diamond, which was a movie I watched in high school maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I never finished it, so I grabbed the Blu-ray for about £1 on eBay, and I just thought this film was absolutely incredible. Really great performances overall, and I was kind of saddened by the ending in some areas, in particular with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, which I won't go into details of. But yeah, definitely a great film that I would recommend checking out. Very interesting, and overall just definitely a thought-provoking film, so that's Blood Diamond. So let's move on to the DVDs. Okay, so moving on, we have a few DVDs which I've picked up this month, and then a few things from last month, which I didn't really get the opportunity to talk about everything last month, so I'm going to include those towards the end of this video instead. So let's begin with this month's pickups. So first up we have Paths of Glory starring Kirk Douglas, a very underrated Stanley Kubrick film, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. This film is from 1957 if I'm not mistaken, and it's based around the First World War, the trench warfare in particular, which I thought this film was absolutely amazing overall. Kirk Douglas's performance as Colonel Dax was fantastic, a really great character. This film is shot in black and white, which may put a few people off watching it, which I find quite petty to be honest, because this film is absolutely fantastic. The black and white does not take away from the visuals one bit. I love the beginning sequences with the trench warfare as the soldiers run over the trenches, which is just an amazing sequence. And then towards the end we have some amazing cinematography featured throughout the courtroom sequences, which were by far my favourite scenes. Despite the really cool action sequences, the court scenes were my favourite throughout this film, which is quite interesting. So yeah, this film is quite short, 1 hour and 20 odd minutes I think it is, which isn't too bad I guess, but I was kind of hoping for a little bit more to this film. But I really enjoyed it, thought it was fantastic, and I would definitely recommend watching it, so that's Paths of Glory. Next up we have The Boondock Saints, which took me absolutely forever to find. Really hard movie to find, unfortunately, on Region 2 DVD, which I would have grabbed the Region 1 copy, but I just thought I'd grab the Region 2 for the sake of it, really. But yeah, this was quite hard to find, and the movie itself was definitely worth watching. It stars Willem Dafoe, Sean Patrick Flannery, and Norman Reedus. Willem Dafoe is the main detective character in this movie, which turns out to be kind of an antagonist kind of character, and then we have the main protagonists portrayed by Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus, who portray the McManus brothers. And this movie is actually really, really good. It's about 2 guys that basically take it upon themselves to rid the world of all the evil and sin in a particular city, which I thought was a really great storyline. And this film itself has so many great reviews, very underrated though it seems, since nobody really talks about this movie, but I thought it was fantastic, definitely worth a watch. However, there is a sequel out there which came out in 2009, I think, 10 years after this one. This came out in 1999, and many people have said that you should not watch the sequel at all because it will ruin this film, and I really do not want to ruin this movie because it was absolutely tremendous. So if you want to let me know in the comments whether or not it does ruin the movie, then by all means let me know, but other than that I really do not want to watch the sequel. So that is The Boondock Saints, the only Boondock Saints as far as I'm concerned. Next up we have a Stephen Merchant television series, Hello Ladies, which I previously showed in my mail call video once again, and I really love this series. It's absolutely hilarious. This is the full series of 8 episodes and the movie, which I thought was great. A really great complete series, which unfortunately got cancelled by HBO because it didn't really do as well as far as ratings are concerned. But one more series and this would have really have took off in my personal opinion. But yeah, it was based on the live stand-up that Steve Merchant did quite a few years ago, and I shall be sure to do a proper review of this full series as soon as I can. So that is Stephen Merchant in Hello Ladies. And finally for DVD pickups this month we have a huge box set of Star Trek The Next Generation, which I've watched a couple of Star Trek movies recently. I watched the J.J. Abrams ones, which were okay. I watched the Star Trek Next Generation movie called First Contact, featuring the villains known as the Borgs, and honestly, I really do love this series. I've so far only watched 2 discs worth of episodes, which is about 7 episodes I think, and overall I think this series is fantastic. I've definitely been missing out as far as Star Trek is concerned, and this box set itself is actually really nice. It comes with this little cardboard sleeve, season 1 as it says, a 25 episode series based on 7 discs. There's the back, and then the actual box set itself. I probably will do a proper review of this whenever I can, but it has Star Trek The Next Generation indented into the actual plastic box set, and then we have a little push thing on top of here, which if you push that down, that enables the actual box set to open up. We have a little digipack in there, and a little booklet as well, showing the characters and the episodes featured on this box set, and I really do love this little layout. We have the Enterprise there, and then we have 7 discs worth of Star Trek, so honestly, I'm really glad that I got into Star Trek. It's an absolutely amazing sci-fi show, starring Patrick Stewart, of course, who is an amazing actor and one of my all-time favourites, and yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out Star Trek The Next Generation. So that is the Star Trek Next Generation box set. Moving on to the stuff that I should have talked about last month. And finally we have the stuff from the March update, so let's begin. First up we have Battlestar Galactica Season 4 Part 1, which honestly, if you're going to take away any recommendation from this update, make it Battlestar Galactica. One absolutely amazing television series. If you want to hear my thoughts on Seasons 1, 2 and 3, you can check out my previous update from March, which included Season 4 and Season 4 Part 2, the final season, which I unfortunately had not watched at that moment in time, but I've seen both seasons now, and overall I just think this is absolutely incredible. Really great finale on this series in particular, where they find a ruined, desolate Earth, and overall I just thought this series was incredible. So it's a 4-disc set, and on the front cover we have the amazing actress who portrays Caprica 6, which her relationship with Guy Baltar was originally the first thing that actually kept me watching this series, just because it was so random and very crazy, and it gets even worse than you could possibly imagine throughout the series. So I'm definitely glad that I did stick with this season, and Season 4 was definitely worth watching. So that's Season 4. And the final season, we have a really great finale on here, which some people utterly despised, and I don't understand why. The season finale was absolutely perfect in my opinion. The only thing that I would floor is a couple of plot holes based around the character of Lieutenant Starbuck, which were a little bit random and very inexplicable and just not very relevant. But yeah, aside from that, the finale was absolutely solid. The only thing that I would also say was a little bit random was the choice of music, which the soundtrack for the full series has been very unique and something that I've quite admired. But then randomly they used, I think it was a cover version of Jimi Hendrix's song All Along the Watchtower, which is an absolutely incredible song, but it just seemed kind of unfitting to actually suit Battlestar Galactica. But yeah, overall this show is fantastic, definitely recommend it, and I'm so glad that I finished this series. So that is Battlestar Galactica. Next up we have Gravity, starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, which honestly I completely and utterly despised this film. I wrote about the first 2 to 5 minutes featuring the satellite debris scattering across space and disrupting the mission that the astronauts were sent on for an assignment piece, which I thought that sequence was fantastic and really well done as far as visuals are concerned, but the rest of this film was completely and utterly dreadful. I really did not like it in any shape or form. After that sequence where the satellite debris was disrupting the mission, it got shit quite quickly. George Clooney randomly starts singing in space and dragging Sandra Bullock along, who runs out of oxygen, and then George invites her to start having a conversation with him, which of course you can see the logic there. Then Sandra Bullock starts flailing around in space like some kind of upset puppet, which this movie should literally be called Sandra Bullock Helplessly Lost in Space, as she flails around bumping into things like a bumbling 5-year-old. So I really did not like that part about the film. The writing was awful, the dialogue was just utterly dreadful. George Clooney was in the film for about 20 minutes, and that was including a rubbish little cameo towards the end of the movie, so he shouldn't really be credited for this movie at all. So yeah, did not like this in any way, shape or form, would not recommend. Rubbish. Next up we have, going out with something actually good in this video, we have Stanley Kubrick The Visionary Filmmaker Collection, which I began my previous update with this box set, and I'd only at the time seen Lolita, 2001, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and The Shining, but I finally finished off this box set by watching Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut. Full Metal Jacket was perfect, absolutely amazing war film. Really was intrigued by it. There's 2 halves to it. Basically, the first half is the part with the drill sergeant, which everybody seems to like more than the second half. I personally preferred the second half, which I loved the character of the Animal Mother, portrayed by Adam Baldwin, and overall I just thought the film was absolutely amazing. And as for Eyes Wide Shut, I'm not really a big fan of Tom Cruise, as many people probably already know, but he actually made for a great character in the film. I just thought overall his character was fantastic. The ending was very abrupt, but very interesting, and I cannot wait to rewatch all these movies once again, just because I love Stanley Kubrick's approach to film, and these films are absolutely beautiful. So thanks for watching my update for April 2016. I hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like down below. Let me know in the comments what you think of some of the things that I picked up, and for more updates, reviews, and other things, then be sure to subscribe for more videos.